What is up, Flutter devs? Across these many videos that we've created related to porting processing to Flutter, we've written a lot of tests. I think maybe 40 something tests at this point, and we've run them now and then to make sure they still pass, and we run new ones as we write them. But I've actually forgotten to run those tests on plenty of occasions, and today we're going to try to do something about it. In any kind of professional or production project, what you want to do is run your entire test suite for every pull request. Now, you might run it more than that, and you might run it in other circumstances, but kind of at a bare minimum, every time somebody says, hey, I want to merge this code in to the repository, you should be running your entire test suite against that code in the pull request. Fortunately for us, GitHub, I think somewhat recently, I think sometime in the last year, if I remember correctly, has added the ability for us to run essentially a continuous integration system with every PR. So we put up a pull request, GitHub checks some GitHub specific configuration, and then on one of GitHub's servers out there in the cloudosphere, executes the operations that you ask it to execute to validate your pull request. And if there's an error code, if the script that you have referenced errors out, then that's considered to be a failing either test or failing task or failing process, and your pull request is not allowed to merge in, at least not without administrative override. Today, we're going to try to figure out how to set up that GitHub workflow for pull request validation, and then even though we should still be running any relevant tests while we're working, we can rest assured that any PR that's merged in passed every test that exists. Let's go see what we can do. I have the project open here, and as with a lot of project configurations that are the same between different projects, the easiest way to accomplish this task is to just copy and paste. Now, if you've watched some previous videos, you know that I've been working on Super Editor, a rich text editor built for Flutter apps. And we've included a GitHub workflow in Super Editor that runs tests to make sure that we don't break the editor between pull requests or between commits. And that all begins right here in this directory, GitHub/workflows, which means that in our Flutter processing package, we also need a GitHub workflows directory and subdirectory at the root of the repository. Let's come back to this project and let's say new directory.github. And we want to create a directory. Then within .github, we want workflows. And then within workflows, let's see what we have in here. We have PR_validation. The name might not matter. I can't remember, but there's no reason that we can't replicate that name. So PR_validation. And it's a YAML file. Now let's look inside this PR validation. What you'll see, I mean, you knew this because it's a YAML file, but looking at this also confirms that this is just a configuration file. This file does not itself have any code or any scripting within it. It doesn't actually tell a machine to do anything in particular. It tells GitHub what we want it to do, and GitHub runs the scripts that are related to what we ask for. Let's look at the structure of this and let's figure out what matters and what doesn't. I'm sure we can name it whatever we want, but this name is fine. On is where you provide a list of different events. These are, each type of event is part of the GitHub specification. So if you wanted to run this workflow based on a different thing happening or multiple things happening, then first you need to go look up the names of the different events that GitHub understands, and you can put any list of them right here. In our case, all we care about are pull requests. Here under jobs, you actually list the individual kind of batch runs that you want GitHub servers to do on your behalf. This first one here is about formatting for line length, because we have a 120 character line length in Super Editor, which is not normal. Normally it's 80, but in my opinion, 80 is too short. It's constrictive. But we're not going to replicate this. We don't care about this. We do want to test on Mac. So we'll come back to this in just a moment. But let me explain why we're not going to include Windows or Linux. Most of our tests are screenshot tests. They are golden tests. Each of these operating systems have different implementations related to actually painting the pixels. In fact, it's possible that even different versions of Mac could paint differently, but our hope is that because I'm on a Mac and I paint the pixels on a Mac, that when we run the same thing on a Mac-based server, that we're going to get the same result, hopefully. But we almost certainly won't get the same thing on Windows and Linux. So we're just not going to run the tests on Windows and Linux. If there ever came a time where the platform was relevant, maybe we run some tests. We would run all the screenshot tests on a Mac, and we'd run the generic tests, the interaction tests, the unit tests, widget tests, whatever. We would run them on all three platforms. But right now, we don't need to worry about that. We just want this test Mac. The most important part here is runs on. We specify Mac OS. GitHub knows how to run either a virtual machine or physically on a Mac that corresponds to the latest Mac operating system. Now, I'm not actually running the latest Mac operating system, and I don't intend to, but hopefully that we'll get the same result there that we do with macOS. Now, this part we can skip because Super Editor is a mono repo. It's going to have multiple packages over time, and so the first thing we do in this case is go into the subdirectory called Super Editor. But for the Flutter processing package, our package, the root is the working directory that we want, so we can ignore that. Now, here are the steps. When we spin up this virtual machine, when we spin up this server, there's literally nothing going on at the beginning. So we actually have to reference a script that checks out our commit. Like that, not even that is automatic. We have to say we want to check out the commit associated with this PR. That's what this step is here for. We also need to ensure that Flutter is set up and runnable on the server, which is what this step is for. Once we have our commit and we have Flutter on the machine, we need to download the latest packages to make sure that we have all of our dependencies. Here you can see that I have yet to bring in static analysis. We don't need static analysis for Flutter processing, so that's fine, or at least I don't care about it right now. And then here's the one line that really matters. This is what we're all here for, Flutter test. That will then run all the tests in our repository. Okay, so let's look at the raw content here, and I'm going to select all and copy. And here in PR validation, we're going to paste. As I mentioned, we're going to remove all of these non-Mac things. We're also going to remove the test line length. We're going to remove changing the working directory. I don't care at all about static analysis right now. And this file should, I think, do what we want it to do in every PR. GitHub will automatically run all of our tests, and if any of the tests fail, we'll get an exit code that indicates an error, and GitHub will say something failed. So let's save that, and let's commit. Added GitHub per PR test validation. And now we're going to git push the branch. Compare and pull request. Let's create the pull request. This is merging into main. And what we wanted to see here was, oh, here it is. So GitHub has picked up what we just created, see test_Mac, and now it's queued up. Let's go see the details. Let's see this happening in real time. So this is if you've ever seen that kind of indication on a PR, this is what's going on in real time behind the scenes while it shows yellow or in progress. Okay, so now it's pulling down, it's essentially setting up Flutter on that machine. And by the way, we don't know if these tests are going to pass because, as I mentioned, we might get different pixel painting behavior on the latest version of Mac OS or on the server for some reason. So fingers crossed, but they all pass locally, by the way. I ran Flutter test before starting the video. All the tests pass locally. We're hoping that they pass here as well. Okay, now we're running pub-get. Now we're running Flutter test. The plus numbers are good. What we don't want to see are minuses. Uh-oh. Well, still all pluses. I guess there may be some print output in there or something. Hey, look at that. All tests pass. 40 tests. Thought we had more than 40, but that's fine. So you'll see that at complete job down here, we have a check mark. See this green check mark up here? We come back here, and now it's all green. And now I can say squash and merge, confirm squash and merge. And now that's in main. Come back to code. Here in main, here's our GitHub workflows. Here's our PR validation. Every single pull request that comes up now, because it will include this workflow, will run the tests, and GitHub will prevent us from merging in if any tests fail. So that is how quick and simple and easy it is to set up continuous integration using GitHub. I'm sure there are certain continuous integration features that aren't available here or aren't available without a subscription. Historically, if you want continuous integration at all, you have to use a subscription, or you only have a certain number of executions before you have to pay. Now, if you can achieve continuous integration with GitHub, there's another side called continuous delivery. So if you want to automatically deploy your app to the stores, that's continuous delivery, or automatically deploy a website to your web server. I don't know if GitHub offers that at all, but for continuous delivery, probably your best bet is to look for those paid offerings, because you'll want to have certain secret keys and authentication, passwords and things like that stored inside the continuous delivery system. And so it's probably good to go with a reputable paid service where they're going to care about getting that stuff right. But continuous integration is as easy as this with GitHub. I definitely recommend you set it up for all of your projects. But with that, we will hopefully avoid breaking things in the future, and I'll see you in the next video.